My neighbor ran to me screaming, "Don't let your daughter leave the house." I thought she'd lost her mind until I opened my daughter's backpack and found something that made me call the police instantly. My name is Claire Morgan. I am 32. I live in a small house on Maple Street with my daughter, Emma, who is 8. Emma has soft brown hair, bright curious eyes, and a laugh that makes the whole kitchen warm. I work at the library. I shelve books, help kids pick stories, and come home tired, but happy to see Emma draw pictures of blue trees on our fridge. Life was quiet and safe, or so I thought. One bright Tuesday afternoon, I was folding laundry on the couch when Mrs. Patel from next door banged on my door so hard I almost dropped the shirt. Mrs. Patel is older, small, always carrying a grocery bag, and she waters her roses every morning. She looked like someone who would never shout. She was running. Her breaths came out like little gasps, and her eyes were wide with panic. "Claire, don't let your daughter leave the house," she screamed before I could even reach the door. Her voice was raw, like someone had pulled a hard string in her chest. She pushed inside and grabbed my hands like a child lost in a crowd. Her fingers were cold. "I don't understand," I said. "What happened?" "Please," she said. She was on the porch with her backpack. I saw it. I thought maybe she was going to walk. "Don't let her go. Don't let her leave the house right now." Her words tumbled out and then stopped. She looked at me as if waiting for me to agree, like I should already know why. For a second I thought she had lost her mind. Maybe she was worried about a storm or a car. Maybe a raccoon had been seen on the street. Maple Street was safe. We all waved to each other. We had a barbecue last month. Kids played tag under the big oak tree. Nothing terrible ever happened. But then Mrs. Patel opened Emma's backpack, and what I saw made my stomach drop so fast I felt dizzy. There was a small, folded paper. On top of the paper lay a cheap plastic watch, not Emma's watch, and wrapped around the strap was a tiny key tied with a single knot. The key looked old and scratched, like it had been hidden in someone's pocket for years. I pulled the paper out carefully. My hand shook. On the paper, in big, messy letters written with a permanent marker, was a short message: "Take her tonight, 9 p.m., parking lot A." I remember staring at the letters like they were a picture in a book that moved. My heart began to pound. The room felt too loud and then too quiet. Mrs. Patel's face was pale. She kept saying, "I saw her put it in there. I saw her put it in there, Claire." I'm sure. I did the thing my brain does when it wants to protect. I made a plan. I called 911 with my trembling voice and told them someone had put a note in my daughter's backpack. The operator asked me questions. I told them Emma was inside the house, sleeping in her room. I told them about the key and the time on the paper. While I spoke, my hands kept the paper like a hot coal. I felt like I was holding much more than paper, like I was holding a promise of danger. "Officers are on their way," the woman on the phone said. "Keep your daughter inside. Do not let anyone in." I clicked the phone closed and took 2 quick steps toward Emma's bedroom. I opened the door. Emma was on her bed, hugging Mr. Squeaks, her stuffed rabbit. She was sound asleep, her lashes soft on her cheeks. For a moment, I wanted to scoop her up and never let go. Instead, I tucked a blanket under her chin and kissed her forehead hard, like I wanted to press my fear into her skin and make it stay there with me. Mrs. Patel sat at the kitchen table and rocked back and forth, her grocery bag forgotten on the floor. Through the window, I saw a neighbor walk his dog. From the street came the familiar hum of a car. The school bus would arrive soon, and children would fill the sidewalks with backpacks and jokes. Life kept moving, like a train that didn't know there was danger up ahead. I sat down and tried to breathe once. Twice. Then I read the note again. "Take her tonight, 9 p.m., parking lot A." The words did not make sense. Who would write such a thing? Who would want Emma taken? I thought about exes, about anyone who might hate me. I thought of a dozen faces and then stopped. I did not want to name anyone yet. Naming felt like giving power to them. The police arrived not long after. 2 officers in dark uniforms came inside, polite, serious. They asked me where Emma was and if anyone had been around the house. I told them about Mrs. Patel seeing the backpack and about the paper and the key. The older officer, Officer Hayes, put on gloves and took the note and key carefully, like they were museum pieces. He told me not to touch anything else. He asked me to stay calm for Emma. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea that was stone cold. Emma napped 2 hours, and I watched the sun move across the floor. The officers took photos. They made a report. Officer Hayes was kind and kept saying small things that were supposed to help. "We'll check cameras, ma'am. We'll look into parking lot A. We'll check for any prints." He left the paper with the scrubbed, old key on a small evidence tray and left with a promise to call. Later that afternoon, neighbors stopped by to ask if I was okay. People I knew waved and offered casseroles and soft words. I felt surrounded by softness, but a sharp winter of worry remained under my skin. I tried to think about Emma's day. She had been at school in the morning. I remembered dropping her off and seeing Mr. Collins, the principal, waving at the gate. After school we had come home, and Emma had been excited to draw. I had made her peanut butter and jelly. She had left her backpack by the door, as she always did. But the key and the note did not belong in her backpack. The handwriting was not Emma's. The key wasn't from anything I knew. I thought of the neighbor kids, Ben and Tara, who loved to play spies and make secret notes. Could it be their joke gone wrong? My stomach churned. As dusk fell, the police called to say they had a lead. They wanted to question a teenage boy who had been seen near the park where parking lot A was that morning. They would bring him to the station. Officer Hayes said they wanted to search security footage from stores near the parking lot. "Do you have any idea who might want to hurt Emma?" he asked gently. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him about the man who had smiled too long at me in the grocery store 2 weeks ago, about the note I'd found in my mailbox once that said stay away from her. But I kept my mouth shut. I told him no. I tried to be brave for my daughter. Night came like a heavy blanket. Emma brushed her teeth and put on her pajamas. She sat at the table and ate one small cookie. She asked me for a story and I told her one, but my mind kept jumping back to the paper and the key. When she fell asleep that night, I could not sleep. I sat on the floor outside her door and listened to the house breathe. At 9 p.m., the hour on the note, I was still awake. The officers had called to say they were following a lead and would let me know. I paced the living room until the clock's second hand felt like thunder. I thought maybe it had been a prank. I thought perhaps there was a silly explanation. I wanted to believe in kindness. I wanted to believe no one wanted to harm my little girl. Then, from downstairs, I heard a sound I will never forget. A soft knock at the front door, 3 quick taps. It was quiet, but it sliced the night. My heart froze. I whispered Emma's name and then remembered she was asleep upstairs. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. On the porch, under the porch light, stood a man I did not know. He was thin, wearing a gray hoodie and a baseball cap pulled low. His face was in shadow. At his feet, half hidden under the welcome mat, lay a small box tied with twine. I could see his mouth move. He looked at the door, then down at the box, then up at the windows. I could not see his eyes. My hand found the phone. I could call the police again. Officer Hayes' voice hummed in my ear from earlier promises. I could press the red button and let the sirens come. But as I reached for the phone, the man bent down and noise from the porch, like a creak. The box moved. He straightened and then started to walk away fast. He looked back once, and for a heartbeat I thought he saw me watching. Then he turned the corner and vanished into the shadows of Maple Street. I stood at the door, my breath loud, my legs weak. The box sat there, waiting like a secret. The porch light hummed. I thought of the key in Emma's backpack and the paper that said take her tonight, 9 p.m., parking lot A. I thought of the man with the baseball cap and the little box, and of how close that knock had sounded to Emma's bedroom upstairs. I opened the door. The box was small. Someone had drawn a tiny heart on the top in black ink. Inside, wrapped in tissue, lay a second note. I read the first line and my hands went so cold I could not feel them. It said, "I know where she hides her drawings." I called Officer Hayes again. The line clicked. He sounded tired. "We're on our way back," he said. "Do not touch anything. Stay inside. Lock your doors." Before I could put the phone away, there was another sound, This time a car door slamming 2 houses down, then the hiss of tires. A light moved quickly across the living room window. Someone was out there. Someone who knew our house, maybe someone who had been watching. My stomach tied itself in knots. The house felt too small, like a fishbowl. The officers promised to come fast. I held the second note like it was a map to a place I did not want to visit. My mind raced with names, with faces, with the sting of being watched. Then, at that exact moment, someone banged on my back door with the force of a fist and shouted, "Police. Open up." I froze. My phone was in my hand. The second note lay on the table. The sound of boots on the porch, someone calling out, the voice not ours, not the officers, everything blurred into a single second where I had to choose. I moved toward the door, but just as my hand reached the knob, the lights in the house flickered and went dark. Outside, a different voice screamed, not a conversation, not the polite knock of an officer. It was a high, angry shout that made my bones tremble. It said 2 words I will always hear again: "She's gone." I stood in the dark, my phone light a small moon in my palm, the notes heavy on the table, and I had no idea what truth waited in the next breath. The house went black, like someone had pulled a blanket over the world. My phone was the only light, a tiny glow in my shaking hand. I could still hear the man outside yelling, "She's gone." His voice cracked with anger or fear. I couldn't tell which. My heart punched against my ribs so hard I thought it might break. For a full second, I did not move. Then a thought burned through the panic: Emma. I spun around, almost slipping on the rug, and ran for the stairs. "Emma?" I whispered, afraid to make noise in case someone was inside the house too. My steps were fast but careful, each one a moment where something terrible could jump out from the dark. I reached her room and pushed the door open with my shoulder. My breath left me. Emma was still there, curled under her blanket, hugging her stuffed rabbit, her soft snores barely filling the silence. She hadn't moved at all. Relief washed over me so suddenly it made me dizzy. I covered my mouth so I wouldn't cry out loud. She was safe. Safe. For now. Downstairs, I heard movement. Boots. A thump. A door opening? I couldn't tell which one. The darkness made every sound bigger. I wanted to scream for help, but I didn't know if the voices outside were the real officers or someone pretending to be them. I took out my phone and called Officer Hayes again. The call didn't ring. Nothing. No sound. Just a flat error message. Of course. The power was out. If the power lines were cut, maybe the cell tower near us was hit too. Or maybe the house's breaker had been flipped. Or maybe someone had done something worse. I picked up Emma, blanket and all. She was limp and warm in my arms, her head on my shoulder. She didn't even wake. I moved back into the hallway and shut her bedroom door with my foot. My eyes adjusted a little. The moonlight through the upstairs window painted weak silver lines on the floor. Everything else was shadows. I walked backward up the hall, keeping my eyes on the stairs, listening for movement. My hand tightened around my phone. If someone came up after us, I could scream and hope a neighbor heard. But nothing came. No footsteps. Only silence and the sound of my breathing getting louder and louder. I made it into the small hallway bathroom and locked us inside. Emma mumbled at the sound of the lock, then settled again. I sat down on the cool floor, holding her in my lap, pressing my back to the wall. Maybe the officers were really outside. Maybe the yelling belonged to someone they were chasing. Maybe the knock had been them checking if the house was safe. But then why had the man shouted, "She's gone"? Who was he yelling to? Who thought Emma was gone? My mind ran in loops until every thought sounded like a threat. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I had to think. I had to protect my daughter. After a long minute, or maybe 10, I heard a different sound, heavy knocking from the front door again. "Claire. It's Officer Hayes." The voice was loud, strong, familiar. He called again, "Claire, it's the police. We need you to open the door." Emma stirred in my lap and rubbed her eyes. "Mommy," she whispered, sleepy and confused. "Shoo," I said softly. "It's okay." I listened hard. Was it really him? Could someone fake that voice? Maybe if they knew him. Maybe if they had heard him earlier. I needed proof. "Say something only you would know," I shouted shakily. There was a pause, then you told me on the phone that Emma likes rabbit stories. And you have a blue wreath on your kitchen wall. Ma'am, please open up. That detail, the wreath, was real. He had seen it today. My body loosened just a tiny bit. I grabbed Emma and tiptoed downstairs, careful with every step. When I reached the front door, I turned the lock slowly and opened it just a few inches. Officer Hayes and Officer Green stood on the porch. Their flashlights lit the whole doorway. Squad car lights blinked behind them. Hayes looked sweaty, like he had been running. We got a report about suspicious activity behind your house, he said. A man was seen running through your yard. Did you see anyone? I nodded, swallowing hard. A man knocked on the door earlier. He left a box. Then someone screamed outside after the lights went out. Hayes exchanged a quick look with his partner. The lights went out here too, he asked. I nodded again. He sighed. Okay, we're going to secure the house. Please stay inside until we tell you otherwise. I let them in. Officer Green headed toward the back door with his flashlight. Hayes stopped at the little box on the table and lifted it carefully. We saw someone in a hoodie near your fence, he said. He ran before we could catch him. Could be the same person. My legs wobbled and I leaned against the wall. Emma hugged my neck tighter, sensing something was wrong even if she didn't understand. Is this about the note in her backpack? I asked. Hayes hesitated, just slightly. We don't know yet, he said. But we're taking everything seriously. He stepped outside and spoke softly into his radio. I heard words like perimeter, suspicious activity, possible stalker. Each one made my skin crawl. When he came back in, he asked, Was your daughter alone at any point today? No, I said quickly. Then my stomach sank. Except this afternoon, for maybe a minute or two when she went to the porch to look for her chalk. Hayes' face tightened. Which direction is the porch? Left side of the house, I said. By the big oak tree. He radioed again. Search that area. I put Emma on the couch and hugged her close. She was finally fully awake now, staring at the flashlights and officers moving around. Mommy, she said softly, why are there so many police? I brushed her hair behind her ear. Just some people checking to make sure we're safe. She thought about that, then nodded like she trusted the world completely. I wished I did. A moment later, Officer Green came toward us holding something small in his glove-covered hand. We found this near the porch, he said. It was a small charm, a silver charm shaped like a tiny bird. I didn't recognize it. But Emma did. Her eyes widened. She pointed at it. That's from my friend, she said. My vision blurred. What friend, sweetie? She shrugged. The boy who plays by the tree. My heart thumped once, twice, then harder. What boy? I asked. What's his name? But before she could answer, Officer Green's radio crackled loudly. A voice said, We have movement behind the house. Someone is watching the windows. I whipped toward the back of the house. Hayes grabbed his flashlight. Emma grabbed my shirt. Green moved toward the back door. And then, the kitchen window behind us exploded inward with a shower of glass. A shadow lunged through the frame, fast, desperate, diving straight into our dark living room with a heavy thud. Emma screamed. I grabbed her. The officer shouted. And the figure rose from the floor, scraping glass off his hoodie. Then he lifted his head and said a name that made my blood run cold. Not my name. Not Emma's. A name I hadn't heard in years, a name tied to betrayal, heartbreak, and a past I thought I had buried forever. And he said it like a threat. The officers raised their weapons. The man took one step toward me. For a moment, everything froze. Glass crunched under the man's shoes as he stepped fully into the living room. Officer Hayes and Officer Green pointed their flashlights and weapons toward him, shouting commands I could barely hear over the pounding in my ears. Stop. Don't move. Hands where we can see them. But the man didn't look scared. He didn't look confused. He looked furious, like he had finally found what he'd been searching for. And then he said it again. That name. Ava. My chest tightened so sharply it hurt. I hadn't heard that name spoken out loud in years. Not since the betrayal. Not since everything I'd tried to bury. Not since the moment my best friend had turned my entire life upside down. Ava. The girl who broke me. The girl who lied about me. The girl who ruined my reputation. The girl who set off a chain of events I had barely survived. Why would this man be here in my home, shouting her name? Officer Hayes moved forward first, voice steady but tense. Sir, step away from the child. The man didn't move. He just kept staring at me. You're Ava's friend, he said. His voice cracked on the word friend, like it tasted bitter coming out. You're Claire Morgan. You knew her. You knew everything. He took another slow step forward. Where is she? My mouth went dry. I haven't seen Ava in 10 years, I whispered, tightening my hold on Emma. Why are you here? What does any of this have to do with my daughter? His eyes flicked to Emma, and something dark passed over his face. She has her drawing book, he said quietly. Ava's drawing book. She has the last thing Ava ever made. I felt my blood run cold. Emma tugged on my shirt. Mommy, she whispered softly. Is he talking about the boy by the tree? He said his mom made him this. She pointed toward the silver bird charm still in Officer Green's hand. The man stiffened. His whole body locked up like he'd been punched. That charm, he said slowly, belongs to my son. Every light, every sound, every breath in the room stopped for a split second. Officer Green blinked. Sir, your son? Are you saying he was near this house? He was, the man growled, jaw tight. Until he disappeared this afternoon. My knees nearly buckled. A missing child. A strange note in Emma's backpack. A man searching for Ava, someone who destroyed my life and disappeared without a trace. A silver charm belonging to a boy Emma claimed played by the tree. The puzzle was getting darker. Sir, back away, Hayes said, voice harder now. We need to talk to you outside. Right now. The man kept staring at me like if he blinked, he'd lose something important. I know Ava contacted you, he said. She contacted everyone from that old life. My son didn't go missing by accident. And now your daughter. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. A sudden crack sounded behind us, a loud, sharp snap. All four of us turned toward the kitchen at the exact same time. Someone was moving in the dark. Officer Green moved first, weapon raised, his flashlight beam cutting across the floor. Is anyone else supposed to be in this house? He asked sharply. No, I whispered. Emma squeezed my neck so tight her nails bit into my skin. Then another sound echoed through the kitchen, a slow creaking, like someone opening a cabinet door. Then a soft metallic clink. Green took one more step. And the second he did, a figure darted out from behind the kitchen island, small, fast, almost a blur, and sprinted toward the back of the house. A child. A little boy. The man in the hoodie shouted, Jacob. My lungs emptied in shock. That was his missing son. But that wasn't what froze me. What froze me was the fact that the boy wasn't running from us. He was running like he was meeting someone. Like someone had told him where to go. Like someone had told him to hide and wait. Officer Green chased after him instantly, but the boy was quicker than I thought a child his size could move. He darted through the back hallway and slipped out the open laundry room door before Green could grab him. Outside, footsteps pounded through the darkness. Green shouted into his radio. The man tried to run after his son, but Hayes blocked him. Not until we know what's going on. I have to get him, the man yelled, voice cracking with pain that stabbed through the room. He'll be found, Hayes said firmly. But right now you need to explain what your son is doing in this house. The man's lip trembled, just barely, like he was holding back something too heavy to say. He was taken, he whispered. Not kidnapped. Not like that. But someone he trusted, told him to come here. They told him he'd find answers. They told him he'd find the truth about Ava. My heart dropped. Because the way he said Ava, the way he said the truth, the way fear shook his voice, it meant one thing. Ava wasn't just part of my past anymore. She was part of whatever was happening right now. Officer Hayes's radio crackled suddenly. Sir, we found blood by the side fence, the voice said. Not much, but a smear. Looks fresh. Emma whimpered quietly and buried her face in my neck. I held her tighter, wishing I could wrap her in steel. The man in the hoodie looked like he might collapse. That's his blood, he whispered. He has a cut on his hand. Ava told him. He stopped again. He wasn't allowed to say the next part. Or he was afraid to. Before Hayes could ask another question, a loud knock shook the front door, not gentle, not polite, but fast and frantic. 3 knocks. Then silence. Then another set of 3. I went cold. I had heard that same knocking pattern once before. Years ago. Right before Ava vanished from my life. Hayes glanced at the door, then at us. "Stay behind me," he said, gripping his flashlight like a weapon. The man in the hoodie backed away, breathing hard. The knocking came again, 3 sharp hits that rattled the whole frame. Hayes reached the door slowly and looked through the peephole. His shoulders tensed. He whispered one word that made the hair on my arms rise straight up. "Claire, it's her." My knees nearly buckled. Because there was only one her he could mean. Ava. She had come back. But she wasn't alone. Hayes took a step back from the door. And through the small window beside it, a shadow moved tall, still, deliberate. Someone else was standing next to her. And whatever was about to happen next would change everything. The night outside felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that comes before something terrible. Officer Hayes kept his back straight, his hand on his holster, his eyes fixed on the door. The man in the hoodie, Jacob's father, stood completely still, chest rising and falling fast. Emma buried her face into my shoulder, shaking. 3 knocks. Silence. 3 knocks again. The same rhythm Ava used when she snuck into my dorm room in college. The same rhythm she used the night everything exploded between us. The same rhythm she used right before she disappeared from my life forever. Hayes looked at me. "Claire, did you hear what I said?" "It's her. It's Ava." My stomach twisted so hard I felt nauseous. Ava, the girl who betrayed me. Ava, who told lies so cruel they destroyed my scholarship, my friendships, my plans. Ava, who told me I didn't deserve a future. Ava, who vanished without ever explaining why. And now she was at my door, on the same night a note was found in Emma's backpack, the same night a child went missing, the same night someone broke into my home. Why now? Why here? Hayes drew a slow breath and opened the door just a few inches. Ava stood there, framed by the porch light. Except she didn't look like the Ava I remembered. The wild-haired, sharp-tongued girl who loved chaos more than kindness was gone. In her place stood a pale, exhausted woman with tangled blonde hair, a heavy backpack, and red-rimmed eyes. Mud covered her jeans. Her hands shook. She looked like someone who had been running from something, or someone, for a very long time. Behind her stood the second figure, tall, silent, half-hidden. I couldn't see his face. When Ava saw me, she burst into tears. Real tears. Not the fake dramatic ones she used to use to manipulate people. "Claire," she whispered, voice cracking. "You have no idea how sorry I am." Her apology didn't soothe me. It terrified me. Because Ava never apologized. Not once. Not even when she broke people. Hayes blocked the doorway. "Ma'am, step back. Hands where I can see them." She lifted her hands slowly, trembling. "Officer, please. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here because you're in danger. All of you." Jacob's father hissed from behind Hayes. "Where's my son?" Ava flinched at his voice, but didn't look at him. "Safe," she said softly. "For now." He lunged forward, but Hayes shoved him back. "Not until I clear this." Ava's eyes darted to Emma. She gasped softly, covering her mouth. "Oh God, you brought her into this," she whispered, horrified. "I'm so sorry, Claire. I tried to fix it before it reached you." My heart hammered. "Fix what? What did you do?" She opened her mouth, but the tall figure behind her stepped forward. I froze. It wasn't a stranger. It was Principal Collins. My daughter's principal. The man who greeted me every morning with a warm smile. The man who handed out stickers to kids. The man who had never raised his voice, never looked angry, never seemed anything other than gentle. He stood behind Ava, hands clasped calmly, like he wasn't standing in the middle of a nightmare. Hayes stiffened. "Sir? What are you doing here?" Principal Collins gave a soft smile, but his eyes were wrong. "Cold. Flat. Empty. Helping," he said. Ava shook her head desperately. "No. Don't listen to him. He's the reason Jacob went missing." He's the reason your daughter was targeted. He's the reason. Collins grabbed her wrist so suddenly she cried out in pain. Enough, he said, tightening his grip. You talk too much, Ava. Green appeared behind us, panting. I lost the boy behind the fence, who's at the door. He stopped when he saw Collins. Principal. Collins didn't smile this time. Please step aside, officers. I'm taking back what belongs to me. Every hair on my body stood on end. What belongs to you? Hayes asked carefully. Collins' eyes slid to Emma. Emma whimpered and hid her face. That, he said. Hayes drew his weapon instantly. Sir, step away from the door. But Collins didn't move. He didn't blink. He simply tilted his head, studying me the way someone studies a puzzle they're close to solving. Claire, did Ava tell you? He asked calmly. Tell you why she destroyed your life all those years ago? Ava sobbed, please don't. Collins yanked her arm again, silencing her. She didn't do it out of jealousy or cruelty, he said. She did it because she was protecting you. My heartbeat stuttered. Protecting me? Ava? Collins stepped closer. You were supposed to be the first girl, he whispered. Not her. But she interfered. The room tilted. The first girl, for what? I whispered. Collins smiled softly, too softly. For the program. Before Hayes or Green could react, Collins shoved Ava into them and sprinted inside the house straight toward me and Emma. No! Jacob's father roared, tackling him. Both men crashed into the dining table, shattering it. Emma screamed. Papers flew. Glass broke. The entire house exploded into chaos. Hayes and Green rushed in with weapons drawn. Ava crawled across the floor toward me, grabbing my hand. Claire, listen, she panted. They've been taking kids. Special kids. Kids who draw things they shouldn't know. Emma's art, her drawings, she wasn't supposed to understand what she drew. Colin saw it. He saw the patterns. He saw the shapes. He marked her. What patterns? I cried. The ones Jacob saw too, Ava whispered. The ones I saw at his school. I tried to warn you before it was too late. Behind us, Collins slammed Jacob's father into the wall with horrifying strength, knocking him breathless. Hayes shouted, get off him. No. Collins lunged for me. I grabbed Emma, shielding her with my whole body. Green fired a warning shot that shattered a lamp but didn't hit Collins. Ava screamed, Claire, run. But Collins moved too quickly. He grabbed my daughter's backpack off the floor and ripped it open, searching, tearing through books, crayons, her little hair clips. He pulled out a piece of paper. A drawing. One Emma had made 3 days ago. A drawing of a strange circle with lines crossing it in perfect symmetry. She told me it was a pattern she saw in her dreams. Collins stared at it with feverish hunger. That's it, he whispered. That's the mark. Then he turned toward us. And a loud thud shook the room. Collins collapsed. Behind him stood Jacob's father, bleeding, bruised, and panting, holding a broken chair leg like a weapon. He'd knocked Collins out cold. The room went silent except for all of us gasping for air. Officer Hayes cuffed Collins, shouting into his radio for backup, ambulances, detectives, everyone. Ava collapsed beside me, sobbing. I'm sorry, she whispered over and over. I was trying to stop him. He used me. I thought I could fix it. But he was always 2 steps ahead. Green ran to the backyard with new officers to search for Jacob. 2 minutes later, a voice shouted. We found him. Jacob was crouched behind the oak tree, scared but unharmed. When he saw his father, he burst into tears and ran into his arms. It took 20 minutes for the house to fill with police, paramedics, and investigators. They took Collins away on a stretcher. His eyes opened once, cold, calm, unafraid. He stared at Emma. You can't hide her, he whispered. Then the ambulance door shut. Ava was taken into custody too, not as a criminal, but as a witness who had been manipulated, controlled, and threatened. She begged me for forgiveness before she left. I ruined your life once, she cried. I won't let him do it to your daughter. Emma fell asleep in my arms, exhausted and trembling. And for the first time all night, the house felt safe. Broken. Shaken. But safe. Officer Hayes sat beside me on the couch. It's over, he said gently. But I shook my head. No, I whispered. It's not. Because Colin's last words wouldn't leave my mind. You can't hide her. And when I finally opened Emma's drawing, the one Collins had taken, something inside me turned to ice. Because the pattern she had drawn matched the symbol on the old scratched key found in her backpack. The same exact symbol. And that meant Collins wasn't working alone. Someone else had placed that key. Someone else had left that note. Someone else had marked the time and location. Someone else was still out there. Watching. Waiting. Planning. And that is where the story ends.